Welcome live to St. John Arena in Columbus, Ohio, where the same two teams that battled for this title just a year ago will go at it all over again. The defending champion Buckeyes from Ohio State, the #1 seeds, will take on the revenge-minded Cougars out of BYU. You're watching the NCAA Men's Volleyball Championship presented by Northwestern Mutual. Let's take a look at the bracket quickly. Hawaii over Penn State. They lost to Ohio State on Thursday night. BYU coming out against Barton, and then they upset Long Beach State coming into the tournament. The Long Beach State 49ers were the #1 ranked team in the country. Welcome, everybody. Should be a great match. Didn't we just do this a little while ago with two-time Olympian Kevin Barnett? I'm Paul Sunderland. But this is, Kevin, a rematch in the purest sense of the word.
Absolutely. Sometimes you end up with the same teams, even in consecutive years, but rarely do you get the exact same players. 6 of the 7 starters from both these squads are back and will be back on the floor tonight. It is incumbent upon BYU to get off to a fast start, because the last time these two teams played a set of volleyball, it was a 25-17 drubbing and then a celebration for Ohio State. I think BYU has to vanquish that early.
You mentioned a lot of familiar faces, and certainly there will be some, but give us a couple of players who will really make the difference and why.
2 guys who play well in big moments. And first, for Ohio State, it's Nicholas Scherzen, Player of the Year a year ago. Didn't have the best championship match, but this is the one consistent about this man. He can serve the ball. He had a 4-ace service run for his team in the semis. That was huge. For Brendan Sander on the other side in BYU, transition kills is what he gave his team in the semis, and he has performed exceedingly well in big moments. Just 4 errors ever in championship play, hitting over 500. He is the guy that has been a point scorer for the Cougars.
Ohio State looking to go for back-to-back championships over BYU, but they know it won't be easy. Pete Hansen, the Buckeyes head coach, in the locker room.
Now, there's a group of gentlemen in the other locker room that want to take it from you tonight. They absolutely have been thinking about that for 364 days, and they want it bad. And what you have to do tonight is trust one another, trust in each other, that we're going to work hard enough to not let them get their hands on it. And Buckeye Nation's going to help you. Buckeye Nation's going to help you, but each member of this team is going to help you. And if you can go out and do that, you'll keep that trophy another year. And that's why we're here, right? That's why you guys have put in all the work, right? Let's go do this.
Bucks on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Bucks! Come on, man!
The NCAA Men's Volleyball Championship is presented by Northwestern Mutual. We help you live life differently.
Moments away from first serve. Number 1 seed Ohio State coming in with a record of 31-2, taking on BYU at 26-4. Let's meet the coaches in his 33rd year. On the right of your screen, Pete Hansen, 4 times the National Coach of the Year, and Sean Olmstead, just his 2nd year as the BYU head coach on the men's side after taking the women's team to the NCAA finals. And now, Kevin, let's take a look at how both teams are planning for success. Brought to you by Northwestern Mutual.
Bottom line for BYU is they have to pass the ball. That's said all the time, but you're facing the best serving team in the nation. You have to pass first. Second, opposite production. Tim Dobbert gets the start at opposite. It's a change. He's been better for that squad. They got nothing out of Ben Patch last year. For Ohio State, use the middle at the right time. 21 kills out of the middle last year in this match, and also make Brendan Sander work. The other outside hitter we just detailed for BYU, serve him short, get 3 hands, 3 blockers, 6 hands up in front of him.
We're set to go. Best 3 out of 5 sets. BYU in their road dark blue uniforms. And here is Dobbert, was exceptional in the semifinal win over Long Beach State. 11 kills on 19 swings. Left side, right over the top of the block, and there was a touch off Dobbert in the backcourt.
If you're 6'10", it's hard to get out of the way quickly.
A really good swing by 6'6" senior Miles Johnson out of Carlsbad, California. Last year's most outstanding player. And here's our first look at Scherzen. Nicholas Scherzen out of France.
That's just what you have to do. Pop it up.
Combination play out of the middle and an unforced error there by number 1 Bryce Jarman.
You hate an unforced error, but you really hate it when it puts the best server back at the line. Great comment this morning from Tim Embaugh. Been 26 years at the University of Ohio State as an assistant coach. He said playing against Nicholas Scherzen and service receive is playing defense, not passing.
With 5 aces, as we saw moments ago, in their semifinal win over Hawaii. Out of the backcourt and missed wide. Unforced errors, this time by number 16, Dobbert, and a very quick start for Ohio State.
Now the nerves for BYU. You have to shake this early. Unfortunately, the BYU team bus did not leave in time in that semifinal to avoid seeing the run that this man put on against Hawaii.
Scherzen, last year's most outstanding player, the National Player of the Year, outside to Sander.
That was Scherzen with the defense.
That ball off the block and out of bounds, but stuffed, and BYU is on the board. A big block to slow down that early run from Ohio State. Sander back to serve, 6'4" junior out of Huntington Beach. He has been superb so far in this NCAA tournament, and again, especially in the semifinals. Dobbert again down the line and out of bounds. So one of your keys, Kevin, opposite production is not happening now for BYU.
Yeah, not just yet. And BYU's going to argue about the skip of that ball, wondering how it got out of bounds, but they should have converted that opportunity.
Chris Kasu, 6'8" redshirt senior out of Pasadena, California, will go back to serve. Langlois right over the top of the block and down. Jake Langlois, 6'10" senior out of San Jose. First team All-American this year.
From behind in the dark side of the gym, in the practice gym, on the 3rd team, last guy on the roster to an All-American. Pretty terrific story for Jake Langlois.
Played golf and soccer in high school, a late bloomer, and now has a chance to play at the highest level. Langlois again, and stuffed by Ohio State. Kevin, we heard Ohio State coach Pete Hansen talk about Buckeye Nation. A really good crowd on hand. The 5th time that St. John Arena has played host to the NCAA National Semifinals and Finals. The first time ever that Ohio State has made it to the championship match. Tip to the floor, nicely done by number 4, Leo Durkin, 6'4" junior out of Las Vegas. really talented and physical setter. Both teams have good size at the setting position.
And you'll notice with Durkin, he works exceedingly hard at getting his hands on every ball. Watch how fast he runs. He does not like the bump set. He will try and hand set everything.
Durkin with a jump float. And that ball whiffed out of bounds, missed wildly by Johnson.
Jump float is an area BYU felt like they could have some success with because Ohio State does not have that in their gym. They're basically all jump servers, and it's not something they see routinely, so BYU felt like you might even take a couple of guys who have both serves and have them jump float. That was a bad pass generated by the float serve.
Ohio State, after a very quick start, leading by 1, and that ball drifts just out of bounds. Something to watch for as this match unfolds. Really good point, Kevin. And a lot of players like to take the jump float serve overhand, but as you point out, Ohio State doesn't really have a chance to practice it. Maxime Hervois, 6'3" junior, also out of France, back to the line. Combination play on the back row, quick. Brendan Sander, wide open net.
This all starts with the pass. Get that ball up perfect, and then you can run that play right down the middle. You move the middle over to pull the middle blocker who was fronting that out of the middle of the court, and Sander over the top quickly.
Sander was 15 of 21 with just 2 attack errors in the semifinals. Good play by the libero, and off to Daubert, off the hands and out of bounds. Beautiful set by number 8, Eric Sykes.
Already a contrast to last year for BYU. The fact that they are serving the ball hard from the line. We saw the jump float, but every jump serve we've seen, they've been ripping it from the line. Jake Langlois is another player who's much improved in this aspect of the game.
Tied at 6, again, first of best 3 out of 5 set match. First 4 sets to 25 points. 5th set if necessary. Beautiful set to the outside. Ripped by Scherzen, but missed out of bounds. Looking for a touch in the backcourt, but none detected.
That was a hell of a set by Christy Blau.
The 2 officials are Wade Brent's up top, and the second referee or umpire is Roy Mink. Langlois again, BYU now with a 7-6 advantage.
He likes that cross-court shot. That one a little more down the middle.
Perfect pass. Off the block, off the shoulder, and finally out of reach.
And who was that running it down, getting that touch? It was Leo Durkin. Kid has wheels.
The 6'4" junior, an honorable mention All-American. His father also played at BYU. A neuroscience major. I looked for that in my class syllabus, but I couldn't find it. Couldn't spell it. Quick set out of the middle and nicely done by number 17 with the kill. Joseph Grosh, 6'7" senior out of Danville, California.
Durkin and Grosh played together in club ball, and now they're growing sweet mustaches for the finals here. That's been the thing on the road for BYU.
Careful now. Sweet?
Well,
kind of looks like one you might grow.
Looks like there was a little bit of shaving going on earlier this week.
That ball served out of bounds. Second jump float service error for BYU.
Pardon me, Bryce Jarman, the guy. Sorry, not the other middle. It's Bryce Jarman that has the sweet mustache.
Christy Blau back to serve, 6'5" senior, dealing with a lot of injuries throughout his career. And Pete Hansen, ace serve! Pete Hansen, his head coach, telling us this is Blau's final volleyball match. He's done after this.
Yeah, 2 hours to go. And this is something that Blau has brought early in the season and now late, the jump spin serve. He's gone back to it later in the year.
Has a rod in his leg after suffering multiple stress fractures. Back-to-back aces. Ohio State now with the advantage, 10-8.
Well, notice what they've done. Who are they serving? Is Ohio State executing the game plan? The majority of the receiving is done by number 15 in blue, Brendan Sander. Both those aces going his way.
Middle combination, and Langlois somehow chops that ball around the block.
Well, I would wonder about the feet of Jake Langlois right there. Were they behind the line?
You have to take off as a back row attacker behind the 10-foot line as Daubert will go back to serve. Daubert taking over. for the All-American Ben Patch, who's on the sideline and healthy now for BYU. He's missed much of the season with a very severe groin injury, and that is the third service error for BYU.
Well, I guess who's back around? Here comes Nick Scherzen again.
Hervois off the edge and down.
And that was deliberate. Hervois took a ton off it and just chopped it sideways into the block, but it started with the dig. Right there. It's one thing to have a powerful service. It's another thing to bring defense to extend a rally for your team and get yourself another trip to the line.
Timeout called by BYU. As you said, Kevin, all about the service line. Ohio State and Nick Scherzen on a 5-1 run. Last year, Ohio State won their second ever NCAA men's volleyball championship 3-0 over the same team from BYU. But Kevin, it wasn't easy.
No, come back in the first set, 32-30 in that set number one, and BYU had their chances. They just couldn't put it away, and it was the service of Scherzen. Mentioned overall, statistically, not a great match for the outside hitters of Ohio State. They hit 225, but the middles crushed BYU as it did there for championship point. And it was a solid third set victory. That 25-17, it was over well before they got to 25. Ohio State, I thought, did the best job last year of being themselves, serving the ball tough and hitting in transition, and they're doing it again early here the next year.
Scherzen will continue and go back to serve. He was a National Player of the Year again, as mentioned last year. This year, he was the MIVA Player of the Year. And only a junior over the top of the block and out of bounds.
Scherzen hits the ball in the middle upper 70s when he's really getting a hold of it. And that, by the way, is the upper peak of what you'll see even internationally. This is an international level serve, and consequently BYU is just trying to lip it up anywhere is good on the floor. As far as they're backed up now, if I could cut it, if I'm Nick Scherzen, I cut it right now to about 10 feet.
Another chance for the Buckeyes to extend their lead. Quick combination, Johnson off the top. Langlois can't chase.
This is one of the changes Ohio State has made. When they run a Vic in front, it's based off a position in front of the setter, 3 or 4 feet. When they run it behind them, it's just behind the setter. So wherever that setter goes, if they're going to run a 40, they call it, to Nick, it's going to be right behind the setter.
That was Johnson out on the right side, and Scherzen playing off that and coming inside for the kill.
There's the cut. I was one serve early.
BYU is in all kinds of trouble. Rattled through and done nicely by D'Amicis. Dubbard into the block and stuffed. Ohio State continues their run, and Buckeye Nation is loving every minute of it. Coverage of the NCAA Championships continues with a softball regional coverage on Friday, May 19th at 12 p.m. on ESPN2 and ESPNU. For more information on the NCAA softball regionals, visit NCAA.com, your home for all 90 NCAA championships. Back with two-time Olympian Kevin Barnett. And speaking of championships, the women's championship was wide up the road in late December, also here in Columbus. And there's some important rules differences between the men's collegiate game and the women's.
Substitutions being huge. The men just 6 substitutions. That precludes nearly anyone from running a 6-2, as you see so many women's teams doing. And then the libero. They do not serve in the men's game.
Scherzen once again been really effective. Sander cuts that ball out of bounds. 5 hitting errors. A hitting error in volleyball statistics, if you get blocked straight down, or even much worse, hit the ball out of bounds, and BYU's been doing a lot of both.
Yeah, what happens is you start trying to get back all of the momentum, all of the roll in one swing with some sort of big kill, some sort of gnarly move. What you need to do is just get a point and start to get another point and grind out your way out of the hole.
Ace serve! Ohio State has scored that. Oh, they called it out of bounds.
They called it long.
Wow.
It was called in down the sideline and called long out the end line. That ball is in.
That ball is in.
That ball is in.
That ball is in. That is a terrible call. Wow. No challenge system. If you watched Olympic volleyball or women's collegiate volleyball, there's a lot of video challenge used, not in men's college volleyball. Wow. And Ohio State shakes that right off.
And that's important. You notice there was no reaction for Pete Hansen. There was no reaction from Ohio State other than to come back the very next place and give Gassus a shot, and he puts it out of bounds. They're right back where they were.
Dris Gassus, 8 of 10 in the semifinals against Hawaii, and put up huge numbers last year in this championship match against BYU, 10 of 14. Dauber over the top of the block and out of bounds, just long. Kevin, is it too early to start thinking about Ben Patch? Been injured most of the season, out with a groin pull. He was a first-team All-American last year. He's over on Sean Olmstead's sideline. The BYU Cougars have just called timeout.
You're thinking about it. You're wondering, is it too early? And the question with Daubert would be an internal discussion with the staff. Can you take him out and bring him back? Is he that kind of player that you can have go back in and out? So far, we talked about opposite play, and they needed some production. It was .091 from Ben Patch last year. It's negative 333 for BYU at the moment.
And there is Ben Patch, an incredible physical specimen, 6'9" junior out of Provo, Utah. Hit .355 on the year, but again, missed much of the season due to injury. Daubert came in. BYU was playing exceptionally well. But Ben Patch, ironically, did his missionary work where? Right here in Columbus, Ohio.
This is sort of a homecoming for him. A lot of family, friends, people that know him are here at this match, and you may see him in this first set. It is going to be an internal discussion, certainly, on the sideline with Sean Olmstead and Lucas Labe.
And Ben Patch, only a junior, but reports are that this is his last match as a collegian. He'll be turning pro after this match.
He is done.
He's done.
And
okay.
Daubert may also be done. He has yet to decide. Just graduated from BYU. He's a redshirt junior, an engineering degree, smart guy. And he hasn't decided if he wants to go one more year, if he's going to move on to professional opportunities. So it's either graduate school or professional opportunities. And either way, it's the bench right now.
There it is. There it is. Ben Patch is coming in right now.
This is a different role for Ben Patch in a championship match, and he has had his struggles in big moments. We will see how much fire and how it is contained by number 13.
Ohio State looking to continue their run, and they do. That ball tucked down out of the middle by Blake Leeson, who was 11 of 13 against BYU last year in the championship. On to serve Ryan Ginn, 6'4" senior out of Pleasanton, California. Serving and defensive specialist. Huge lead, 19-10 for the Buckeyes. And that ball just out of bounds, and this one was long.
One mustache will leave the floor. in comes Clay Stanley's brother.
Will Stanley, number 3, he's wearing that brace on his elbow. A collision with a libero for BYU. Comes from an unbelievable volleyball family. His father, John, an Olympian back in 1968. Combination play once again, dug by Sander.
Oh, BYU should have gotten a swing out of that one.
Hervois down the line and out of bounds.
That ball was a little tight to the net, and Hervois was forced to reach. And sometimes when you reach, you don't have as much control at the point of impact, and that'll give the top speed server over 70 miles an hour another shot for BYU.
Here comes Stanley, if we don't mention, out of Honolulu. That's going to be a center line violation. Leo Durkin hustling after that ball, but violated the center line, and so point for the Buckeyes. They lead it 20-12.
If I'm BYU and I can get a couple of good passes, I would throw him Ben Patch's way and try and get him in a little bit of rhythm, because he's got nothing but off opportunities to start his entry to this match. You hope to build into the next set.
Here is Johnson. Tight pass, and Durkin does a beautiful job going up and tracking that one down. We talked about 2 long physical setters for each of these teams respectively.
That's a nice dump, but Hervois needs to come up with it. He's already waiting for the swing from the hitter instead of figuring out the setter is also available as a weapon.
Johnson is Ruth. Big block out of the middle by number 17, Grosh.
These are big momentum plays for BYU. This set basically lost at what was 20-12. But they can certainly make plays and get themselves back on track, because the beauty of volleyball is it all resets to 0.
That's going to be blocked once again, this time by Langlois, and Pete Hansen probably thinking about it. A comfortable lead and still pretty good separation, Kevin, at 20-15. But Pete Hansen now in his 33rd year in his 112th match overall, not going to take any chances.
What's given BYU trouble on the last 2 plays has been the jump float serve. Again, not used to seeing that a ton. That ball is just too tight to the net. Not a lot of options left for Christy Blau.
Just a quick correction over on the Ohio State side. I said it was his 112th since he's been here 33 years. That's not a lot of work. How about his 1012th match for Pete Hansen? Want to remind everybody, tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN, it's taking out to Wrigley Field for Sunday Night Baseball presented by Taco Bell. Interleague play, the Yankees and the Cubs, the pitching matchup. Luis Severino taking on John Lester, so that should be a very good one indeed. Let's take a look at the Ohio State Buckeyes, 31-2 overall, 16-0 in the MIVA, the Midwest Intercollegiate Volleyball Association. And they played everybody but BYU in the regular season.
Yeah, the only big-time team they did not see this year. And Ohio State proved that they sometimes get a lot of grief for playing in the MIVA, because some of those games, some of those matches are just throwaways. They're going to win the match. There's no way you don't win the match. But these are the teams they went through. UCLA was number 2 in the nation at the time they played. At Stanford is tough. You split with Penn State. Barton, who represented the Conference of Carolinas here, you beat them. You beat Long Beach State. UC Irvine, the only team to beat both of these squads this season, has victories over both BYU and Ohio State. And about that victory for UC Irvine here, Pete Hansen said, credit to them. They came in and served us with tough pressure. Kind of did to Ohio State what Ohio State does to everyone else.
That was Ohio State's only loss here at home at St. John Arena, built in 1956. Hervois again. Good dig into the cross court, but that dig will be nullified. Eric Sykes, the net violation called against BYU. Point possession back to Ohio State on top, 21-15. If you're just joining us, Ohio State got out to a quick start. BYU coming right back to tie it at 6, and then it's been all Ohio State, led by Nick Scherzen, going on a really nice serving run. 7-1 run, Ohio State led it 22-12. Reese DeVilbiss on to serve, 6'2" freshman.
Turn around inside out because there's no stopping what can't be stopped. This is what's going to the professional level next year. Straight OT.
That was right over the top by Ben Patch. 6'9" and a really high flyer. Here is Langlois. Ball dug too tight, and the fister straight down that time by Leeson of Ohio State.
Smart move by Leeson. So many times you have a player with the ball tight and low to the net like that follows through into the net. Leeson making sure that he got a downward trajectory on it without any follow through.
Leeson, a 6'7" redshirt sophomore out of McCorn, Wisconsin. 6'7", just a little guy. Ben Patch once again, right over the top of the block.
And while he's in this kind of rhythm, you just get back there and hope the defense picks it up because the block's in a pretty good spot. There's just no stopping that. You have to wait for hitters like this to bring the ball down into you as a blocker. Don't start reaching higher and higher and giving him hands to work off of.
Quick look at Patch's numbers on the season, but again, he was injured for much of this year, replaced by Daubert. Oh, ripped down the line. Shearson once again with a heater right into the chest of Durkin.
And he goes right by Patch, and this will give you some idea how high Ben Patch is getting. This player touches over 12 feet. He's going to get a look at the national team. He's going to go professional. There are Italian scouts here tonight watching him play. There's a lot of excitement about what he can do at the next level. He's got some learning to do, but certainly the raw tools are there for number 13.
Ben Patch is on John Spera, U.S. national team head coach's roster for this summer, coming up with World League competition. This is his last collegiate match, number 13 back at the line. Still a comfortable lead for Ohio State. Shearson once again. Shearson now with 3 kills on 5 swings.
And he's going back to back on the outside, one on the left, one on the right. And now he steps back to the line. This is the guy you want in this moment. He's so good from the service line when it matters.
Set point, Ohio State. Sander, good save in the backcourt that time by Patch. And Brendan Sander, like the rest of his Cougar teammates from BYU, been very quiet offensively. BYU, Kevin, hitting 0. 9 kills, 9 errors. Set point again for Ohio State. And that ball's out of bounds. Opening set at home for the defending champions from Ohio State. They take the first set over BYU, 25-19. You're watching the NCAA Men's Volleyball Championship presented by Northwestern Mutual and Ohio State. All over BYU in the opening set, playing to their strength, serve and pass. They win it 25-19. Back with two-time Olympian Kevin Barnett on Paul Sunderland. You said that was going to be the story, and so far it's been about serving. 2 aces for Ohio State, none for BYU.
Yeah, those 2 aces coming from the setter, Christy Blau, but a lot of pressure coming from Nick Scherzen and the rest of Ohio State. The one thing that's good for BYU is that Ohio State did not put the world on fire in that first set. They only hit 148 offensively, so it's not as though everything is working for Ohio State, but certainly the important part, what they hang their hat on, was from the service line. That 2 aces does not explain the pressure that BYU was under from the service line. And then those 9 errors, a lot of those came early. BYU steadied out a bit late. I think that plays well for them going into this next set. If I'm Pete Hansen in Ohio State, my message to my team is BYU played well at the end of that set. Expect them to continue to fight, and it is a brand new match, brand new set right now in the second.
BYU coming in with a record of 26-4, Ohio State at 31-2 if you're just joining us. These two teams played at Penn State last year, where Pete Hansen got his 2nd national championship. Ohio State has won twice. BYU has won 3 national championships, the last coming in 2004. These two teams did not play during the course of the regular season. And Nick Scherzen once again has been as advertised, served exceptionally well and also received well. So key for Penn State, slow down Scherzen and Blau from the service line.
And find a way to pop the ball up and get yourself on track offensively. I think there's still a lot of pressure on BYU.
Underway in the second set. And Daubert is back on for BYU, replacing Patch. Off the block and out of bounds. Sander was there, but that ball was ripped by Miles Johnson.
The thing about Scherzen from the service line is that he not only hits it hard, but he hits it to good spots. It is in gaps so frequently. It's not just on guys, it'll be between guys. Now BYU's gone to 4. They pull in Daubert to pass, trying to reduce the amount of open space.
Brilliant set to the outside, up into a 3-man block, back to Sander, and roofed again. Number 23, Maxime Hervois, getting involved.
This is the game plan. Serve the ball hard, serve the ball to Sander. They do those 2 things, get 3 up in front of him, and stop him. That is absolutely the way Ohio State drew it up coming in to tonight.
Ohio State won the opening set 25-19. Scherzen was at the service line for 10 of those 25 points. Off the edge of the block and down, a much needed early side out. Bryce Jarman, 6'9" junior out of Las Vegas, puts that ball away. What do you think about sending Ben Patch back to the sideline? He was perfect. He was perfect for Daubert once he came on the floor.
I think you have that in your pocket now. I think you know you have that. You bring Daubert back, who's played well throughout the second half of the season here. You put him back in, and if it doesn't go well, you already know you have a bailout. So I like the return of Daubert.
Seuss with a kill out of the middle, the 6'8" middle blocker. Hitting .469 on the year. That should be illegal.
With so few substitutions, you like to know you have something in your pocket that can make a difference through the match. You want to keep that and hang on to it.
Once again, in men's collegiate volleyball, only 6 substitutions as opposed to the women's game, where there are 15. Good selection to the outside. Sander taking advantage of the one-on-one.
Brendan Sander went through all kind of knee problems this year. BYU was a little bit beat up at times, and Sander finally healthy at just the right moment.
His older brother Taylor, who also starred at BYU, now a star internationally, won a bronze medal at the Rio Olympic Games, currently playing professionally over in China.
And you have to watch out, Sander right now hitting 0, and this is a kid who has played to the top level in these big moments, and Sean Olmstead said, I never worry about how he's going to play.
5th service error for BYU against no aces. Combination play dug by Scherzen. The beautiful back row quick executed by BYU.
And I like feeding the hot hand. Sander's your guy. He scored a ton for you in the semifinals. Feed him the ball in a whole bunch of rotations. And I like where they keep moving the middle. As long as Ohio State's going to be fronting, if you have a good pass and you go to the gap, it will be open down the middle.
Easy serve by Jarman. Out to Herbois, who's been awfully good. Maxime Herbois, 6'3" junior, was 7 of 14 with 1 ace in the semifinal win over Hawaii.
Yeah, I thought his blocking was on point for them, and it turns out they didn't never ever talk to him about his junior days, and they were saying, why is he having such a hard time passing? Have you ever talked to him about his passing? And head coach Pete Hansen said, no, I haven't. I said, well, when we did, it turns out he was a middle blocker. So he had never really passed the ball. He's not that comfortable doing it, but he played a ton of middle, and I think that shows up. You saw him, if you watch the semifinal, make big one-on-one moves and stuff balls, and that's been a critical part for Ohio State in their blocking, which is something that BYU beat them in last year, 12.5 to just 4 in that match.
Here's junior setter Leo Durkin back at the line now for BYU. Ohio State won the opening set easily, 25-19. A chance here for BYU. Good save by Sykes, and cannot be saved by BYU.
Well, BYU's doing some good things. The jump float to Herbois down the line. That's a good spot. Unfortunate they couldn't convert the opportunity.
Here is Leeson, both middle blockers. Gassus and Leeson were so effective in last year's championship match against these same BYU Cougars. Dauber nicely over the top of the block into the cross-court corner.
Dauber did a nice job here of settling under that high ball. This is a difficult swing coming from behind him. Coasted in and just used his height to place it to a good spot rather than wail on it into a well-formed three-man block.
Well, he's getting some practice, as is Langlois and Sander. BYU has been out of system an awful lot with some poor passing. Tight, right on top of the net, and the joust.
Oh, they called him over. I don't know about this call. Ohio State's owed one, so maybe this is it. Remember that serve in the first set that most certainly was in. I mean, I can see it. I can see it. It's coming down. It's more or less on the Ohio State side. But as soon as that turns into a joust play, I think you swallow your whistle.
Christy Blau, the setter, by rule, you have to allow the setter an opportunity to get the ball. But I agree with you, Kevin. Just let him play on. Good set to the outside on the off ball, and smartly off the edge of the three-man block and out of bounds by Daubert, who's in a little bit of rhythm here to start the second set. 48th NCAA Men's Volleyball Championship, the first ever won by Al Skates and UCLA over USC. That was all the way back in 1970. Johnson, Miles Johnson, number 13, in scarlet and gray over the top of the block.
The tournament MVP a year ago came back stronger, better from the service line, and has had a terrific season for Ohio State.
Buckeyes leading 8-6, already up 1-0. Daubert over the top, and the off speed cannot be tracked down that time by Gabe Dominguez.
Another smart shot from Daubert.
Boy, that's a break for BYU, Kevin, getting Scherzen off the service line with the off speed, but another service error, this time by Daubert, the 6th for BYU.
Since last year, BYU spent a lot more time serving. Their focus was on getting better at serving because they were one of the worst serving teams in their conference. They were the best serving team in their conference, the MPSF, this year. One of the best teams at that skill.
BYU cannot pass the ball right now. In real trouble receiving, but they're only trailing by 2.
And if you watched last year, that's exactly what happened. BYU could not pass the ball, and Ohio State simply ate them up in that aspect of the game, and that is again happening here. And from a standpoint of confidence, that just wears on you. Everything is predicated by passing, and when you can't pass, you can do nothing else in rhythm.
Neither team hit very well up to their season numbers in the opening set, but Ohio State is on fire here in the second. They are 6 for 7. Herbois keeps the ball alive. I maybe was a middle blocker as a junior, but I'm an outside blocker for the Buckeyes. And with that stuff, Ohio State leads 11-7 in the second set.
The little stuff, the quick reactions paying off. Herbois was there for the block as well.
Timeout called by BYU. Ohio State leading 11-7 in the second. Number 1 seeded Ohio State over number 3 BYU, 1-0 and 11-7 here at home at St. John Arena. The national champions have been the Buckeyes twice in 2011 and 2016, both under Pete Hansen, who is now in his 33rd year. 5th championship match overall. The 5th time that Ohio State and St. John Arena have hosted the men's national semifinals and finals, the first time ever that the Buckeyes have advanced to the championship match. Back with 2-time Olympian Kevin Barnett. How big an advantage playing at home. Pete Hansen said, look, we're allowed 132 days. We probably spent 120 of them in this building.
I think it would be more pressure had they not won last year, but I think having come through last year against this team, having that success, having everybody back, it's nothing but a positive for them. Sometimes teams at home get a little sketchy because of the pressure of the home crowd and everything else, and the pressures of people asking for tickets. I think it does nothing but work for the Buckeyes.
Herbois off the top of the block, dug by Sander, but out of the reach of Daubert. Kevin, look, BYU's down a set, but as you pointed out, found some rhythm and played well at the end of that first. But I know they're only down by 4, but it doesn't seem like they're in this match.
No, it's the relentless serving of Ohio State. BYU is not able to pass and look like an in-system volleyball team. They're constantly on the defensive. Like right now again.
Dig by Scherzen, and Johnson again able to rattle that ball through. That ball was down. No question about that. Good work by the lines person. Johnson with another kill.
Well, again, Nick Scherzen playing defense behind the block. Stuff coming off the top, and he's ready to move forward and pick it up. We've seen him do that at least 3 times in this match.
Johnson's got 160 aces on his career, second all-time, only to Scherzen. Nice crack cross court by the Cougars.
Well, that was the funny thing this year. At one point, Nick Scherzen broke the all-time career record. Then he got passed by Miles Johnson, all within this season, and now Scherzen is back above that number. I mean, his serving numbers are out of this world. In fact, as a team, their serving numbers are out of this world. 215 aces in play and playoffs in the regular season, gave up just 93.
BYU didn't think that ball had cleared, but Ohio State will take advantage. Another kill by Johnson, number 13, the 6'6" senior out of Carlsbad.
It was a nice job of just hitting flat off the hands when you have a big block like this, because BYU is tall. Look at how high that block is, but that is a flat shot.
3.9 kills per set, 338 on the year for Johnson. All-American numbers indeed. He was a first-teamer.
Scherzen was waiting for that one.
Scherzen missed it out of bounds. Break for BYU. They will go back and serve, trailing 14-10.
Jump float coming. This is where they could make some progress, BYU. Look for them to find Herbois and right back. Tried to get to him.
Dig right on top of the net. Johnson again ripping down the line. Back-to-back hitting errors. First by Scherzen and now by Johnson. And here comes BYU to see if the Cougars can take advantage and get back in this championship match.
I'm actually okay with both hitting errors. They're both aggressive swings. They're just out. The player's in rhythm trying to make a play.
Look at that play by Scherzen.
He is late. He is late to this ball. He's not expecting it to be set that fast to the outside. And what does he do? Instead of panicking or tipping, he just wails it right through the hands. And that is the aggression of Ohio State, who is playing with supreme confidence.
Ohio State leading 15-11 in the second set in this best 3 out of 5 for the NCAA championship. And Miles Johnson, last year's most outstanding player in the tournament, also against BYU, is off to a really good start, Kevin.
The strongest guy on the floor is how his coach describes him in his senior season. And I love that he's been left at opposite. He's 6'6", not the biggest guy in the world. And so many times coaches want to convert these mid-sized guys at 6'6" into an outside hitter and see what they can do. Put some big goon over there on the opposite. Leave him at the opposite. Let him thrive. That's what he's done the last 2 seasons. Terrific performances by an athlete who is comfortable in that role.
Well, Ohio State was not a big team by any measure. 6'6", 6'7", 6'8". By today's standards, that's pretty small.
Well, they're big in the middle and they're big at center, and that helps.
Daubert into the cross court, dug nicely by Herrois. And did Langlois get a touch? He did not. Critical unforced error for BYU.
Well, this ball dropped a little bit on Jake Langlois. He didn't get extended on it. His elbow went out to the right side and had to kind of cup his hand. And then you're not getting over the top of the ball, putting any topspin on it that way.
Ben Patch is back in, number 13 in blue, replacing Daubert. You're just joining us. Patch, a first-team All-American last year, bothered by injury much of this year. Daubert came in, played well. The team chemistry was outstanding. So even though Patch was healthy, he stayed on the sideline. Scherzen off the block and out of bounds. He really manages that position so well.
Well, this is just a confident swing. This is just a guy who is fearless. He doesn't care who's up there. He's just taking a big cut. And you do that when you're swinging well, because that, in many cases, that's a block. But here, who cares? Whale the ball and hope for the best. I like that kind of hitting. That appeals to me.
Scherzen, 6 kills on 11 swings, also has a handful of days. That's trouble again for BYU. Wow.
That's terrible. You can't put it in the middle. That has to be to one side or the other. You can't throw it right down the middle of the court.
Timeout called by BYU.
BYU is in jeopardy. This is slipping away quickly. They have certainly lost control of this set. And being that it's the second set, it could be a very ugly third. I see nothing on the BYU side that's going to allow them to turn it around, and that's because they've been unable to pass the ball. And talking to them earlier this year, when I had a chance to see them back in February, early February, meat of the season, that was still their concern. They felt like we've become a better serving team. We've conquered that problem, but we still have reception issues, and that's all we've seen through the beginning of this championship performance.
Some things never change. If you can't pass, you can't win. Not at the highest level. Quick reminder, coming up tomorrow at 3:30 Eastern Time and 12:30 Pacific on ABC. It's Game 4 of the Eastern Conference semifinals. LeBron James has been spectacular as the Cavs look to eliminate the Toronto Raptors. Once again, that's tomorrow on ABC at 3:30 Eastern Time. Did you see that left-handed jump shot in the lane that LeBron made the other day? He just made it look easy. LeBron has been absolutely spectacular so far throughout these playoffs. And if they're able to eliminate, after beating Indiana in 4, if they can eliminate the Raptors, LeBron James, who's played about 4 million basketball games in the last 14 years, can get some rest.
I've had some very interesting discussions with a former teammate of mine, Josh Crozier, about whether LeBron could dominate volleyball, because LeBron has tweeted that he could be a pretty good spiker. Yeah, okay, LeBron, come on out. Come to the national team. We'll see how you do, buddy.
That's too big a pay cut. Excuse me.
Yeah, that would be a problem.
There you look at the bracket and quickly how these two teams have arrived. BYU 3-0 as they pulled off the upset over previously #1 ranked Long Beach State, and Ohio State at 31-2 now overall on the year had no trouble at all beating the Hawaii Rainbows 25-23, 25-18, 25-19. Back to two-time Olympian Kevin Barnett from Paul Sunderland, Jake Laglois back at the line. Have you seen any evidence throughout the course of the season that BYU can pass well enough to get back in this match?
No.
Scherzen missed it out of bounds. Good blocking and defense that time by BYU. But a net, they called a touch. And BYU is not complaining about it. Good call by the officials, touch off the top of the block.
Nick Scherzen does a nice job of extending at the last moment and getting over the top of the ball. Yeah, that one's on the end line anyway. No instant replay in use here, as we saw earlier, but that ball, definitely with the Hawkeye system, if you watch the Olympics this past summer, that would have been well in.
Samil Thomas, 6-foot sophomore out of Tinley Park, Illinois, wanted to serve and play some defense. Big lead once again for Ohio State. And Langlois, clutch kill out of the back row.
Lucky play for BYU, who was completely out of rhythm again, but I like the aggressiveness from Langlois. Just take a step close and take a swing at it instead of popping it over. Here's a guy who's still learning the game, and Jake Langlois, just his 4th year of volleyball. Grew up in a volleyball family, but never played club, never played high school. Came to BYU and set up a bunch of tryouts. He said, I'm going to play a sport at BYU. His very first tryout was with the volleyball team. He felt so good about that, he canceled the rest. And he was the 20th guy on the roster for a while, and now he's an All-American first team.
Well, he was a pretty good high school athlete, but mostly focused on soccer and golf at 6'10". He is a senior out of San Jose.
And he's going to move on to the national team gym after his time at BYU.
Here is Scherzen again, ripping the jump serve, and immediately leads to a point. Ohio State has been balanced, but there is no question that Scherzen is the star of this championship match so far.
Now this is a serve that they are not ready for. Notice right there in the gap again at 70+ miles an hour. International players struggle with that kind of reception.
Scherzen's older sister Anya also played volleyball here at Ohio State. Good swing off the top of the block that time by Patch. Johnson unable to respond.
Ben Patch, in his spare time, he's an accomplished wedding and engagement photographer. Actually took the engagement photos for Bryce Harper. That's right, Bryce Harper.
That is really interesting.
Bryce Harper has a pretty good connection to these two schools, actually, too.
Yeah, not bad.
That ball on the ground from Patch. Bryce Harper's wife, soccer player, played both here at Ohio State and BYU. The world is a very small place.
Getting smaller by your world is a very small place, apparently. 21-15. Will Stanley coming on now to replace Leo Durkin at the setting position. Wow, that's a big sub. Not often that you change setters. Here's Patch. It has been all Ohio State so far for this championship. Scherzen calling for it, and BYU. Three-man block to stuff that straight down.
BYU runs a bunch read system, which makes it really hard to set the big. Look how close those guys were even before that ball got set. They were already thinking about the middle of the court. And part of that was because also Hervois was sucked into the middle of the court, unable to hit on the outside.
Both teams now with 5 stuck blocks. Patch again. And Scherzen runs out of real estate. Timeout called by the Buckeyes. Boy, very similar to the opening set. But coming out of a late timeout, Ohio State was able to get their composure and close out the opening set 25-19. We'll see what happens this time.
Well, there's your ace in the hole. There's the thing you knew you had from the first you could bring in the second. The question is it too late? At 21-17 now, you're close. You're back in the set, but you might not be able to get close enough. BYU finally, the first time they've had a little bit of momentum at all in this match.
Ohio State has won a couple of NCAA titles in 2011 and 2016. BYU looking for their 4th title. And Ohio State is going to be looking at their new playing facility, the Covelli Center, scheduled to open for the 2020 season. It will also be the home for the Buckeyes women's volleyball team, wrestling, and gymnastics. About 4,700 is the capacity, and a lot of schools. I mean, nobody's got a building like the Nebraska Cornhuskers. That place is absolutely perfect, but a lot of schools, particularly around the Big Ten, on the women's side are building middle-sized arenas, and it's absolutely perfect for sports like volleyball, like gymnastics, like wrestling.
I like those new arenas. I like the size, but I'll tell you what, I love this arena. St. John Arena, the feel in here, the steep upper balcony, the wooden seats. This is a beautiful place. I would want to keep this place. I normally don't like old buildings. Right. This one has a great feel. Reminds me a bit of the old Chicago Stadium.
Yeah.
That's how it was steep, it was tight, and that place was a dump. This place looks much nicer than that.
Built in 1956, home to Jerry Lucas, John Havlicek, among so many others on the basketball side. Patch with another ace.
I like when servers vary the speed. Okay, you can beat the guys to the back line. I get it. I love that. As soon as you do that, give me something else. And we've seen that from Patch a couple of times. That one not as short as it could have been, but it had good pace and it got there fast.
5-0 run for Patch and BYU. 3rd ace now for BYU. And that one missed into the top of the net, but Patch got him back into the set.
No, he's done the work, and now what I might do is I might set him, even on a perfect pass, I'd go right to him.
Ryan again back on, 22-18 advantage. Remember, the first 4 sets to 25 must win by 2. And that serve is missed. Here is Sander. Good set by Durkin with one hand legally to the outside, and Hervois with the hammer.
Hervois touches over 11-7. Give you some idea for those at home who don't understand what 11-7 means. Basketball hoop's 10 foot. The top of the box on the basketball hoop is 11. So you're talking about half a foot past that. If you're talking about Ben Patch, you're going over 12 feet. So you're going another, maybe not close to a foot past where we just saw Hervois go.
Langlois comes right back, number 10 in dark blue for BYU.
And Hervois, too, what I like is the extension. There are lots of players in the world that jump high. There aren't as many players in the world that hit at full extension every time.
There is Jarman going with a jump float. That's going to be easily handled right on target and tipped quickly to the floor that time by number 5, Christy Blau.
Smart move by Blau because he knows he's in a gap between blockers. The outside is kicked out and he has a little bit of space.
4 set points now for Blau and Ohio State, the defending champions. Reese DeVilbus on now to serve. Once again, a very average pass. Langlois out of bounds, and Ohio State leads 2-0.
Ohio State in control. They have looked terrific through 2.
For the NCAA championship, there's the hardware, and the Buckeyes need just one more set to close out the deal. You're watching the NCAA Men's Volleyball Championship presented by Northwestern Mutual, and it's been all Ohio State so far. A rematch from last year, that championship at Penn State. Ohio State won that 3-0, and they could be well on their way. Back with Kevin Barnett, I'm Paul Sunderland. So what does BYU do? They've now lost 3 sets in a row, and Ohio State has dominated them so far. How does BYU turn this thing around?
This is a continuation of last year. It's as though we went from the 3rd set of last year into set 1 this year. If you're BYU, you have to start with some reception, and then I would go to your outsides. I would go to your hot hitters. I would start Ben Patch in this set, and I would set him a bunch of balls. I would set Brendan Sander whenever possible. You've had to set him, but I would go to him even more. I mean, to look at the numbers, it's been all OSU, and I don't think Christy Blau gets enough credit in the good setter, the terrific setter in college discussion, because he runs a diverse offense. In the semifinals, no one was in double figures in kills until the very last swing of the match, and it gave 10 to Nicholas Scherzen. And again, that's the case. No one has more than 8. Johnson has 8, Scherzen has 7, Herbois has 6. Each of the middles have 2. Blau has been on point.
A quick look at Sean Olmstead in his 2nd year as head coach of the BYU men's team. And he's going to have to find some answers. And as you thought, Kevin, number 13 in blue, Ben Patch does get the start here in the 3rd set. Langlois with the tap down off the service winner from Leo Durkin. There is Sean Olmstead. His sister Heather is the head coach of the women's program. This is actually his 3rd straight national championship match. More on that in a moment. Scherzen once again. Wow, is he good.
Well, he's just swinging with confidence right now. It doesn't matter who is in front of him. He just takes a big cut.
I just got handed a note by our outstanding stats crew. That 1-0 lead was BYU's first lead of the match. I'm not so sure that's a good sign.
Could be short-lived with number 9 on the line.
BYU's got to get out of this rotation, and they do. Scherzen with the miss. That's 7 service errors against a couple of aces for Ohio State. On the other side of the ledger, also 7 errors for Langlois and BYU against 3 aces, and all of those aces from Ben Patch.
Somehow BYU is going to have to forget about the last 5 sets against this team and play this set as a singular entity.
Wow, rolling over the top and rejected by the high-flying Patch. Patch is turning pro. This is his last collegiate match, albeit only a junior.
And a good stop by Patch there too. Did a nice job of reading the set, reading the hitter, and not going past the ball. You saw him shorten up that step and go up. That's way outside.
Yeah, very poor set that time. Mitch Worthington, 5'8" freshman out of Mesa, Arizona, has come on now to replace Eric Sykes at the libero.
When you're a freshman, you just got subbed in the national championship match. Your team is down. That's an energy set right there. That's nerves, and put it all into the ball, and it goes a little too far.
Sander misses that ball out of bounds after 15 kills in the opening round against Barton. 15 more kills on 21 swings against Long Beach State. He is now really struggling, hitting 0, meaning as many errors as kills.
4 kills, 4 errors. Make me want to feed Patch some more.
Here's Gassus. Patch off the block and out of bounds. A really good quick swing, beating the Ohio State block.
The physical capabilities of Ben Patch allow him, when he is in rhythm, to be unstoppable. And right now you need something on your side. Set Ben Patch every opportunity you have and just live or die with the blonde hair of 13.
He's 4 for 5.
Give it to him.
And the only miscue was not his fault. That was a poor set. Shank pass, a rare shank pass here. Johnson off the floor that time. A little bit of a divot by the former golfer Langlois. Johnson registers the kill. Yeah, shake up that right arm. It's done a lot of work during the course of your long and very successful career here at Ohio State. Number of players for the Buckeyes, among them Johnson. National active career leaders. Johnson, the active career leader in kills. And that ball will be kept in play by Durkin. And Johnson misses that ball out of bounds. Good hustle by BYU.
Yeah, a bad choice. I don't like that at all, because Johnson was way inside. And now he's held his right arm a couple of times, tucked it behind his back. That's a bad sign if you're Ohio State.
Patch with a service error. Tied at 5. We're just joining us. Ohio State, the #1 seed, playing it at home. 31-2 overall, 16-0 in conference play. BYU 26-4 overall. Ohio State won the first set 25-19. The second set 25-20. Patch off the block and out of bounds.
Durkin doing what he needs to do. Just throw the ball to Ben Patch whenever you can. Here's your one lone bright spot. See if you can get away from some other people. And maybe by attracting enough attention to that opposite spot, you can open up some other opportunities.
Scherzen ripping again into the cross court. Now with 9 kills on 15 swings.
Nicholas Scherzen hits such a heavy ball, has big hands. And Tim Membaugh told me, he said he can get such control on the ball. A lot of players need it more close to their body, in line with their body, to get top spin on it or get angles on it. He said he can reach out and extend and still get over the top of the ball.
Leeson now for the Buckeyes. Langlois awkwardly turning in the air and able to put that ball right on the sideline, registering a kill. Jake Langlois, the first team All-American, now with 7 kills on 15 swings. Boy, easy jump floater. I'm with you. I like the tough jump floater. That thing was an absolute lollipop. Gobbled up by Ohio State.
Well, you hit the right guy, he made a good pass. So you hit it, wow, that was a good move. Sometimes your opponent just makes a good play, and that from start to finish, pass, set, crush, was all good by the men in scarlet and gray.
Scherzen now in double figures with 10 kills. Langlois hammering that ball straight down for the 6'10" outside hitter.
So now you have Langlois and Patch hitting the ball well. That's a good sign for the BYU offense.
BYU, after a very slow first couple of sets, good here in the third offensively, 5 of 7. Should get a chance here. Smart shot up into the block. Nicely done by Ohio State.
Not about going to the middle a lot. It's about going to the middle in good spots. That was a tough play by Driscosus. Just to get the footwork right to get ready to hit. Sliding over, he's looking at the setter and trying to determine where the setter's going to contact that ball. He didn't look up at all. He's guessing based on the push of Christy Blau.
Patch off the top of the block and down once again. Ben Patch has really done an outstanding job coming in. Look, he's a star, and he was the star for BYU coming in last year. First team All-American, a lot of focus on him. He was not good in the national championship match. Missed much of this year with the leg injury, and come in and is really producing off the bench now for BYU. I'll tell you, you talked about Christy Blau being an elite setter. This is his last college match ever. He's going on to medical school. Career cut short a little bit, at least in terms of the pros, because of injuries, and he is really solid.
It's one thing they like to do. They like to push that middle blocker away, and then they started to set it maybe 4 or 5 feet from the setter, that big attacker, rather than setting it to a position on the floor.
Sander misses that ball out of bounds. He continues to struggle, but a break here for BYU. The net violation called against the Buckeyes, and they lead it. That is BYU 10-9 here in the third. A must-win situation for BYU.
Again with the gap here, the 3 being called, so you'll see the middle blocker go into that gap, and that may open up the middle for Nick Scherzen.
There is the middle blocker. Grosh back to serve. Handled perfectly in system once again, and Hervois easily through the block.
Keep the pace when you get pushed into the gap. Pushed a little bit forward, fast pace, and that's another change that Tim Enball made to the offense, and I love this one. Everyone should do this. Set the ball inside. Christy Blau has set a terrific offense, but he's done it by eliminating one of the vectors in hitting.
Dubbed by Scherzen. Hervois with the off speed. Sacre bleu.
French 1 and French 2. Oh, what a play. Another terrific defensive effort. People don't talk enough about the defense of Nick Scherzen, the overall game that he brings for Ohio State.
The Buckeyes French connection. Tight set. Scherzen rolling again off speed.
Ben Patch has got to pick up that ball. He went underneath the block. He looked underneath the block and did not react to the play. He's already thinking about hitting. He's got to go get it. He'll tip it here. Watch Ben Patch on defense. 13, right in front of the ball. He goes towards the play. He stops and he backs out. No, you got to keep going. As long as you're going towards the play, be ready for that.
Behind Scherzen, Johnson, and Hervois. Ohio State now on top 12-10.
Back to the attack angle, something Ohio State changed. No more outside in. They went to just staying up the sideline. So the right side hitters will stay on the sideline, and the left side hitters may only get a foot outside. What that does is tell the setter, never put it outside the antenna, always keep it inside. That helped me as a hitter professionally. That is a good route to go. It eliminates one whole aspect of guesswork for the hitter.
Look at that pass by Scherzen. Sander smartly done through the block and down, and we're tied at 12.
Boy, what a job by Durkin to dig this one out and make it a hittable ball. Ball fires into the net, and so many times digging it out like that, it'll come way off the net and be unhittable. Also like the big step close from Brendan Sander.
Patch already with 3 aces. And now his second service error.
And the 2 that he's had back-to-back are not even close. They're in the middle of the net. You have to be closer than that.
I mean, I know he can really jump, but those tosses were way, way into the court. Hervois down the line. Scherzen tucking the ball inside. Another really good fast choice by Blau. Notice Christy Blau, number 5 in scarlet and gray for Ohio State, plays with a mouthpiece. Never really seen that before. He was in a collision and hit the floor, broke a tooth. And he didn't want to break any more teeth, so now he plays with a mouthpiece. He just got used to it. And he's not getting rid of it. It's worked pretty well. A national championship last year, and maybe another one this year. And he's on his way to medical school, and he is the Medal of Honor winner in the Big Ten Conference here for Ohio State. And that ball served out of bounds, and we'll step aside with Ohio State leading at the break. 15-13. The Buckeyes on top, 2 sets to none. And leading here in the third. Ohio State looking to make it 2 championships in a row over BYU on top, 2 sets to none and 15-13 here in the third. Let's take a look at the Capital One Cup standings update as teams compete for a combined $400,000 in scholarship donation from Capital One. Stanford currently leading 92.5, North Carolina, Clemson, James Madison, Denver. On the women's side, the Stanford Cardinal on top, followed by the basketball champions, the Gamecocks out of South Carolina, USC, West Virginia, and the Nebraska Cornhuskers. That is the Capital One Cup standings update. Back with 2-time Olympian Kevin Barnett, I'm Paul Sunderland. Blake Leeson back to serve. Ohio State leading 15-13 here in the third. Really good crowd on hand here at historic St. John Arena. The 5th time that Ohio State has hosted the championship. Ace serve into the cross court.
This is where it really could go from bad to worse for BYU. They've worked so hard to stay in this third set and try and stay in the match. 16-13, a critical moment.
4-1 run for Leeson and Ohio State. Combination play. Sander dug in the backcourt, kept alive by Johnson. Scherzen, that ball's got to come up. Really smart swing up into the block.
Well, it is a middle blocker there in the left back. They don't get a lot of opportunities to play defense. Durkin's trying to keep it loose on the BYU side. I like that.
Kirill Meritev, a 6'8" senior out of Bulgaria, on to serve now for BYU. Ace serve down the line with a jump floater.
Coach Lucas Slave told me that this guy could be a weapon coming in to serve with the jump float. That is one of the tougher jump floats I've seen all year.
Gabe D'Amica's calling that ball out of bounds. I don't think so. 16-15. BYU must win in order to keep this match alive. Scherzen off the block, off the defense of Sander, and out of bounds. Scherzen now with 14 kills.
Excellent footwork by the linesman. Bravo. Quick feet getting out of the way. He was out the building before that ball had a second contact attempt.
Patch is rejected by Scherzen.
This ball was left a little too tight, and Nick Scherzen did a terrific job of closing on the antenna. And Ohio State is closing in on their second consecutive national title and doing it in convincing fashion, much more than they did last year. The home crowd's gonna love it if Ohio State wins it in their own building.
The NCAA Men's Volleyball Championship is presented by Northwestern Mutual. We help you live life differently.
Welcome back once again to Columbus, Ohio and St. John Arena. Ohio State has won the national championship, both under current head coach Pete Hansen in 2011 and 2016. Their fourth title match all the way back in 1977, the other in 2000, and now they are just 7 points away. As Christy Blau, once again the 6'5" senior out of Ontario, New York, playing in his last ever collegiate match, back to serve. Another poor pass.
Too tight set for Patch.
Scherzen again, dug by Patch. What a defensive play by number 13 in blue for BYU.
Just got to put your helmet on sometimes and dig in. He got stopped right before the ball got hit. Good job just to get stopped in a spot and then pop it up.
That was really a big play as Durkin goes back to the line.
A fortunate break, too, that ball got put in the net.
Perfect in-system pass, ripped out of the middle once again by Gassus.
If I'm Dries Gassus, I love that, too, because I missed the last play. I blew it and hit it in the net on what was a bang-bang overpass opportunity. I love the chance as a hitter to atone for that mistake.
Scherzen just out of bounds. What a match he is having. Hitting .455, 7 digs. He's got a block and leading Ohio State and the match with 14 kills.
The ball just gets on you so quick. You have to make a snap decision.
There is Langlois. 52 aces on the year. BYU trailing by 2 here in the third. Tight set, Patch pulled his hands down, and Durkin was there defensively and couldn't make the play.
Patch couldn't reach it. Smart move. Pull your hands down, expect your defense to be there. Don't reach back. That's a good move by the block here. That's got to come up from behind.
I agree with that all the way. You don't want to get tooled out of bounds, but a big play there, and coming on to serve is Sunil Thomas once again. Ohio State leading 20-17 in the third.
Thomas's mustache is a lot better than that serve.
Oh, that's very strong. 10 service errors for Ohio State against 3 aces. 10 service errors for BYU against 4 aces. Will Stanley will go back to serve, the backup setter, but a very good server. Durkin still on the floor for BYU. And misses that. Serve again for Ohio State.
I like it when teams concentrate on being themselves and doing what they do best. Don't worry too much about what's happening on the other side of the net. Do what you do, and Ohio State for 2 consecutive years has done that. They do not care who's across from the net, be it McKendree or BYU. They will give you the same.
Scherzen again at the defensive end. And with the kill off speed. 23-18.
Nicholas Scherzen has put on a show. Didn't have the best finals last year. Was timely in what he did, how he contributed. Certainly made a difference. This year, start to finish, every phase of the game, Nicholas Scherzen has been spectacular.
Timeout called by BYU. Ohio State now just 2 points away. Want to remind everybody tonight, 11 p.m. Eastern Time. It's Sports Center at night with Kevin Connors and Lisa Kearney. Have NBA and NHL playoffs, the Kentucky Derby, Major League Baseball's very best, and a big fight, Alvarez versus Chavez Jr. We'll have all of that coming your way tonight at 11 p.m. Eastern Time on Sports Center at night. Talk about Nick Scherzen. He has been the player of the match last year. He was the National Player of the Year.
No aces, 0 aces, but a tremendous amount of pressure and opportunity for his team. And then you add in 15 kills, hitting .458, 8 digs, and a block. And what has impressed me is the different opportunities. Remember, the fast one that he hit off the block out of bounds, the roll shots, the cut shots, dealing with different situations and making good choices. The experience of a junior, the experience of a player of the year, making plays and doing everything he can for his team.
We talked about Ben Patch of BYU turning pro, and certainly Nick Scherzen. I mean, France is a volleyball country. Their men's national Olympic team is one of the very best in the world.
Outstanding.
He's got 1 more year of eligibility. Is he good enough to turn pro right now? Absolutely. But Pete Hansen told us earlier today, he's already said he's coming back for his senior year. BYU has got to get out of this rotation right now. Big lead for Ohio State. Quickly out of the middle, and they get the job done. Price Germany, rare kill out of the middle for BYU.
Remember, Patch has missed his last few serves, 2 dead away into the net. He's probably got to take some off it.
Tim Daubert, who started at the opposite, replaced by Patch, comes in for Durkin to add some size blocking up front.
No setter on the floor for BYU. That ball looked long.
It might have been out of bounds, but Ohio State plays it, and Daubert with the tap down. 23-20. Buckeye head coach Pete Hansen has a timeout remaining, and he's thinking about it. Again by Patch. Sender with the tap down.
No more thinking about it. Time to take that timeout.
Ben Patch with 3 aces and a couple of back-to-back service winners, and a timeout called by Ohio State. It's 23-21.
Ben Patch got lucky with that first serve because I think it was well out, but what it did was it gave him a little bit of confidence coming off those 2 errors, came back with another good swing finally at the service line, which is what we saw him do to start this match when he came in.
But if you're Ben Patch, and now that you've been iced a little bit by the timeout from Ohio State, what's your approach when you come back on at the service line?
Now you do one of 2 things. If you have a 70-80% serve to a good spot, a tough spot, then you hit that. We've seen Patch go short at times. If you cut it, maybe that's your shot if you're going off speed. If you feel like you're in rhythm after that last swing, you come back out and you get right back on it. I've done both, coming back out of a timeout. It all depends on how Ben Patch is feeling and how he's rating his toss, his rhythm with the ball.
Serve must be in for Patch and BYU. A missed serve here would give Ohio State 3 championship points.
I would take my time, and you've seen Ben Patch take all the time allowed, the 8 seconds to serve. I would look at where the open spot is. Right now, there's a lot of open space in the area 1-2, and that's if you go left. You cut the ball right in front of the libero here, right side of your screen, down the 10-foot line. If you have that shot, hit it right now.
If BYU's going to get back in to this match, it comes right now. Hervois into the cross court. Crowd on their feet here at St. John Arena. Maxime Hervois in his first year here in Columbus, Ohio State. First of 3 championship points. And misses it out of bounds.
I go to Nick Scherzen right now. He's in the left front. I don't care what happens. Perfect pass, bad pass. You set number 9.
Same situation now for Brendan Sander. Got to serve tough, but you must serve in. Scherzen for the win. There it is.
You set him for the win, and then you break his legs in the dog pile.
What a performance by Ohio State and Nicholas Scherzen, and congratulations to Pete Hansen, his 3rd national championship.
An absolutely superlative performance by the Ohio State Buckeyes from moment 1 of this match. No nerves, no hesitation, coming out like the #1 team in the nation and dominating this match. All over BYU, never let the Cougars get comfortable inside Ohio State's home arena. Service pressure from the start, excellent play all around, outstanding setting from Christy Blau. Definitely the #1 team in the nation, and sometimes you have a championship squad that you can have the argument, well, they didn't face this team, they didn't face that team throughout the year, it just didn't happen. They beat everybody as they look back at match point, and this didn't matter. Sometimes left side hitters end up with that pass and they get the set anyway. You should have gone to them no matter what. Nicholas Scherzen and Ohio State have beaten all comers this year. They are the best team, and they proved it time and again in 2017.
Wonderful team effort, and congratulations to the Ohio State Buckeyes. Back-to-back NCAA champions. Scherzen led the way with 16 kills, followed by countryman Maxime Hervois with 10. On the match, Ohio State absolutely superb. Yep, the celebration is on. They hit 358 and really never gave BYU an opportunity.
Outside hitters hit 225 in last year's match. This year, you had 2 guys, the 2 Frenchmen, well over 400 for the match. It was a different sort of match. The middles didn't factor as much as the outsides did for Ohio State. But their serving set the tone and carried them through that first set where they hit 148. Remember that. They did not get off to a terrific offensive start, but they sure worked their way in.
The 5th time this championship has been held at Ohio State. The first time ever the Buckeyes made it to the final match, and they made the most of it. Yep, Pete Hansen, the Buckeyes are national champions once again. We'll be back with more right after this. the second year in a row, Ohio State has beaten BYU for the national championship. Their third overall. They won it in 2011. They won it in 2016, and they won it once again this year in straight sets, 25-19, 25-20, and 25-22. And all three of those championships have come under the head coach, Pete Hansen, now in his 33rd year, and he joins us at the table. First of all, Pete, congratulations on a wonderful match. And we had your conversation with your team in the locker room. That's almost exactly, just be us. You served them almost off the court. You played well, and how wonderful was Nick Scherzens along with so many others.
Nick was the player of the year tonight. You know, he didn't get that award for the year, but he got it tonight, and he was marvelous. He was absolutely marvelous.
Coach, it seems like sometimes they overlook, when talking about Nick Scherzens, the defense that he plays. We saw him time and again pick up balls in that middle back off the block. Do you think that's an aspect that's been overlooked by folks talking about him?
Yeah, I think so. You know, he doesn't dig all the balls, but he digs the big important balls, it seems like. And Nick is a big-time player when the situation is the biggest, and that's obviously what we saw tonight.
This was a wildly different match than last year in terms of how your offense went. Last year it was the middle blockers,
yeah,
21 kills and hitting well into the 600 combined. This year the outsides were the ones getting the kills. Why did that happen?
Well, I don't know if we passed it great. You know, we struggled with the float serve, and I don't know if Christie really wanted to throw it in there a lot, but you know, the outsides did a great job, and I think over the year he got a lot of confidence in Max and knew that Max could be a bailout guy, and I think he wanted to keep him going and just kept him in a good rhythm.
Talk to us for a moment about Christie Blau, just named to the all-tournament team. The impact he's had on your program. It's his last ever collegiate match. He's going to go on to medical school. The impact that he's had for you.
He is a marvelous young man. He is the kind of guy that you want to be the poster child for your program. He's a wonderful student. He's a wonderful human being in terms of doing things in the community. He's a leader. He just supports everybody on the team, plays through situations that most kids would kind of go, why do I need to do this? And he just works hard at it. And you can't say enough about Christie Blau.
The community came out to support you tonight in big numbers, a nice crowd. How have you built men's volleyball in Columbus?
Well, I don't know that we've built it yet, Kevin. This I hope is a step.
2 championships in a row should do a pretty good job.
Well, you would hope, but I think there's a lot of first-time fans here that never knew what this sport was all about, and hopefully now that they've seen it, they'll continue to come back and support it. This was huge for our community to see this happen on our floor, and then obviously for our kids to get the win, and just reiterate to Buckeye Nation that this is a good thing going on. Why don't you come out and watch these student athletes too?
How sweet to repeat when you had the target on your back all season long. You won last year, and 6 of 7 starters coming back, so everybody was gunning for you all season long.
It was a tough year to coach, you know, because you knew everybody was wanting to be that Super Bowl match against Ohio State, and you know, the kids handled it marvelously. You know, they did lose 2 matches, but you know, they just kept grinding, and they just kept playing, and they kept believing that if we got to this point, you know, this would happen.
Pete, congratulations.
Thank you, Paul.
2 in a row. 3 overall is pretty darn good. Congratulations.
It's
wonderful job, and congratulations,
Coach.
Thank
to you and your team.
Thank you so much for being here.
Once again, the Ohio State Buckeyes are back-to-back NCAA men's volleyball champions as they take out BYU for the 2nd year in a row. This year, they do it at home at St. John Arena, 3-0. Coming up next is Sports Center. For my partner, Kevin Barnett, and our entire ESPN crew, I'm Paul Sunderland. Good night from Columbus, Ohio.